The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Not the calm silence of peace, but the heavy silence of fear. Great windows looked out into space, where stars once stood bright. Now, many of them were dark. Entire systems had gone quiet. No signals, no survivors, no answers. Admiral Keltar stood in the center of the chamber. His uniform was clean, but his hands shook. He had fought in many wars, but nothing like this. This enemy did not conquer worlds. It erased them. One by one, reports appeared in the air. Fleets missing, colonies gone, defense lines broken without a single distress call. The enemy left no wreckage, no bodies, only empty space. The council members argued in low voices. Some demanded stronger shields. Others wanted more ships. A few suggested hiding and waiting. Keltar knew the truth. "There is nothing left to send," he said. His voice echoed across the chamber. "We have used every fleet, every weapon, every plan." A long pause followed. Then one counselor spoke the words no one wanted to hear. "There is one option left." The room grew colder. An ancient star map appeared, covered in warning symbols. One world was marked in red. The Death World. The records described it as violent, unstable, and dangerous. Its species had no natural claws or armor, yet survived constant wars, disasters, and self-made destruction. Humans fought each other as often as they fought nature. "They are unpredictable," another counselor said. "They do not follow standard rules of war. They may refuse," someone whispered. "They may make things worse," said another. Keltar stared at the map. He had read the human files many times. What frightened him was not their weapons, but their history. Humans had survived plagues that killed billions. They had rebuilt after burning their own cities. They had turned suffering into strength. "We are already losing everything," Keltar said quietly. "What more can we lose?" The chamber fell silent again. The decision was made. A signal was prepared. Not a demand, not an order, a request. The message was simple, honest, desperate. To the leaders of Earth, "We are under attack. Our enemies cannot be stopped. We ask for aid." The signal crossed the stars. Far away, on a blue world filled with storms and oceans, humanity received the message. The leaders of Earth gathered. They studied the data, the lost worlds, the empty systems, the unknown enemy. There was no panic, only focus. Human commanders saw patterns, movements, weaknesses hidden inside the chaos. One general broke the silence. "They are hunters," he said. "They expect fear." Another nodded slowly. "We won't give it to them." The reply was sent back to the council. It was short. It did not ask for payment. It did not ask for control. It did not ask for mercy. It asked only one thing. "Where is the enemy?" And in that moment, far across the galaxy, something changed. The council felt it, though they could not explain why. They had asked for help, but what was coming was not just aid. It was humanity. The human fleet arrived without warning. There was no grand announcement, no greeting signal. One moment, the space near the council's last defense line was empty. The next, it was filled with dark shapes tearing through reality itself. Alien sensors struggled to understand what they were seeing. The ships were massive, built like moving fortresses. Their hulls were scarred and uneven, not smooth or beautiful like most galactic designs. These were ships made to survive damage, not avoid it. Admiral Keltar watched in silence as the fleet formed up. The humans did not wait for orders. They moved with quiet purpose, taking positions as if they had rehearsed this battle long before arriving. Human soldiers filled the hangar bays. They wore heavy armor, dark and worn, marked with symbols from many past wars. Some armor pieces did not even match, repaired and reused again and again. These were not soldiers dressed for show. They were dressed for survival. General Marcus Hale stood at the center of the command deck. His face was calm, almost cold. He studied the enemy data projected before him. He did not ask how many humans might die. He asked how fast the enemy could be broken. The enemy hunts in packs, Hale said. They strike weak points and vanish. Alien officers shifted nervously. That tactic had destroyed entire fleets. Hale continued. Then we won't defend. We'll bait them. The aliens did not understand. No species had ever offered itself as bait. Before questions could be asked, alarm sounded. The enemy had arrived. Dark shapes emerged from hyperspace like living shadows. They moved fast, cutting toward the human ships. Alien commanders braced for disaster. The humans did not retreat. Human ships powered forward. The first clash was violent and loud. Energy weapons lit the darkness of space. Human ships absorbed hits that would have shattered alien vessels. Armor cracked. Hulls burned. The ships kept moving. Then something unexpected happened. The human fleet spread out. Not in panic. In control. The enemy rushed in, sensing weakness. That was when human ships turned sharply, locking the enemy inside a killing zone. Smaller human craft poured out, fast and aggressive, striking from all sides. Alien observers watched in shock as the enemy formation broke apart. They're adapting, one officer whispered. Hale nodded. They always do. So do we. On the ground, human strike teams prepared for boarding actions. Not from safety, but from close range. They wanted the enemy near. Close enough to study. Close enough to learn. As the battle raged, the enemy began to pull back. That had never happened before. Admiral Keltar felt a slow, cold realization settle over him. The enemy was not confused. It was afraid. And this was only humanity's first move. Far away, deeper in enemy space, something old and dangerous began to pay attention. The galaxy had just changed sides. The enemy did not retreat far. They regrouped in the darkness beyond the battlefield, watching, learning. They had faced countless species before and broken them all. But humans were different. Humans did not collapse when plans failed. They changed the plan. Deep inside the human flagship, General Hale studied the battle recordings. Every movement, every hesitation, every moment when the enemy reacted instead of acted. They feel pain, he said quietly. Not the way we do, but enough. The alien commanders gathered around him. Fear still lived in their eyes, but now it mixed with something new. Hope. How can you be sure? Admiral Keltar asked. Hale replayed a section of the battle. An enemy ship hesitated when surrounded, choosing escape over attack. They avoid loss, Hale said. That means they value survival. That means they can be pressured. Human engineers worked without rest. They modified weapons in real time, adjusting frequencies and impact patterns. No long debates. No endless approval chains. Humans trusted action over perfection. Meanwhile, human ground teams launched their first boarding mission. A captured enemy vessel drifted silently. The alien species watched from a distance, expecting traps. Inside, human soldiers moved through dark corridors. Their footsteps were slow and careful. They did not rush. They listened. The enemy attacked from the walls themselves, bodies shifting and twisting. Humans adapted instantly. When weapons failed, they changed tactics. When tactics failed, they used instinct. The ship was secured, not without losses. Human soldiers carried their wounded and their dead back to the fleet. There was no celebration, no loud victory, only quiet respect. Alien officers were confused by this. You lost many, Keltar said carefully. Why do they still stand so calm? Hale looked at him. Because loss is not new to us. He ordered the next phase. Instead of fortifying defenses, the human fleet advanced deeper into enemy space. This was unheard of. Most species waited for reinforcements. Humans pressed forward. The enemy responded with overwhelming force. This time, they surrounded the humans completely. Alien commanders panicked. Escape routes were gone. Communications flickered. Hale gave a single order. Hold! The human fleet formed a tight circle. Ships overlapped shields, sharing damage. When one ship weakened, another took its place. Pilots spoke calmly, even as explosions rocked their vessels. Minutes passed. Then something strange happened. The enemy attack slowed. They expected humans to break. They did not. Human counterattacks became sharper, more precise. Targeting changed mid-battle. Weak points were exploited. The enemy began to withdraw again, faster this time. Admiral Keltar stared at the tactical display. They're learning to fear you, he said. Hale shook his head. No, he replied. They're learning we won't stop. Far beyond the battlefield, the enemy's central mind processed this new threat. It had destroyed empires. It had erased civilizations, but it had never faced a species that treated war like endurance. The enemy prepared something new, something brutal, and humanity was walking straight toward it. The enemy changed its strategy. This time, it did not attack ships. It attacked hope. Across the frontier worlds, old defense stations suddenly came back online, broadcasting familiar signals. Lost colonies sent distress calls in voices the aliens recognized. Command codes that should have been impossible to fake appeared on screens. Some alien crews broke formation, rushing to save worlds they believed were still alive. They flew straight into traps. Admiral Keltar watched the feeds in horror as ships vanished one by one. The enemy was using memories as weapons. This is cruelty, one officer whispered. General Hale said nothing at first. He stared at the false signals, his jaw tight. They're copying us, Hale finally said. Studying us. Learning what hurts. Human analysts moved fast. They traced the fake signals, mapped their origin, and shut them down one by one. It cost time. It cost ships. Humans accepted that cost without debate. Then Hale gave a new order. Show them our history. The alien commanders did not understand. Human data streams opened across shared networks. Images flooded alien screens. Not tactical data. Not battle plans. Human history. Cities burning. Wars fought across continents. Crowds fleeing disaster. Hospitals full. Graves without names. Alien officers recoiled. Why would you show us this? Keltar asked. Hale's voice was calm, but heavy. So you understand us. The footage continued. Humans rebuilding after ruins. Children learning in broken buildings. Soldiers standing again after defeat. Humans fighting each other. Then standing together when everything else failed. This enemy uses fear, Hale said. We learned long ago how to live with it. The enemy reacted. For the first time, it spoke. Not with words, but with pressure. Minds across the fleet felt it. A cold presence pushing into thought. Promising pain. Promising extinction. Alien crews collapsed. Some screamed. Others froze. Human crews staggered. Then they stood back up. Humans had faced fear before. In trenches. In burning cities. In hospitals during plagues. Fear was not new. It was familiar. Human mental shields locked into place. Training took over. Discipline replaced panic. The enemy's presence weakened. It did not understand. It increased force. A massive structure appeared near a dead star. A living fortress grown from dark matter and flesh. This was the enemy's core, the source of its control. The alien commanders believed it was impossible to attack. Human commanders did not ask if it was possible. They asked how close they could get. The fleet advanced. Enemy defenses erupted. Energy storms tore through space. Human ships were damaged, some destroyed. Others pressed on, using wreckage as cover. Human strike teams prepared for the most dangerous mission yet, boarding the enemy core. No alien species had ever stepped inside it and returned. Human soldiers loaded weapons, checked armor, and shared quiet words. Not speeches, not prayers, simple reminders. Watch your left. Stay close. We come back together. The boarding craft launched. Inside the enemy core, reality bent. Walls shifted. Gravity twisted. The structure tried to crush the intruders. Humans adapted. They anchored themselves. They marked paths. They cut through living walls. The enemy attacked directly now, pouring defenders into the corridors. These were not machines. They were creatures grown for war. Humans fought anyway. They fought in silence, conserving breath. They fought when weapons failed. They fought when wounded. They dragged each other forward. At the center of the core, they found it. The central mind. It was vast, old, confident. It pushed into their thoughts again, stronger this time. It showed them images of Earth burning, of oceans boiling, of humanity erased. Some humans fell to their knees. Others stood. One soldier, bleeding and shaking, forced himself upright. He remembered something simple, a rule taught in training. When everything else fails, move forward. He fired. That was enough. Human explosives detonated inside the core. Not all at once. Controlled. Precise. Tearing apart the structure from within. The enemy screamed across the psychic field. The pressure vanished. Outside, enemy ships lost coordination. They drifted, collided, fled. The core collapsed into itself, disappearing in a silent flash. The battle was over. The cost was high. Human ships burned. Rescue crews worked without pause. Names were recorded. Bodies were recovered where possible. The alien fleets watched in stunned silence. They had seen courage before. They had never seen endurance like this. Admiral Keltar stood beside Hale as the last explosions faded. "You walked into their heart," Keltar said, knowing many would not return. Hale nodded. "Yes. Why?" Hale looked out at the stars. "Because if we didn't, they would keep coming, and someone else would suffer." The galaxy began to understand. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They were not the most advanced. They were the ones who refused to stop. And that made them the most dangerous allies the galaxy would ever know. The war did not end with celebration. When the enemy core collapsed, the battlefield fell quiet, but the damage remained. Broken ships drifted through space. Emergency lights flashed inside cracked hulls. Rescue signals filled the channels. Human crews moved first. They did not wait for orders or praise. Medical teams launched toward damaged ships, human and alien alike. Engineers sealed hull breaches under fire from collapsing debris. Pilots pulled survivors from the vacuum, sometimes at the cost of their own safety. Admiral Keltar watched this with deep confusion. "They save everyone," he said, "even those who doubted them." General Hale nodded. "That's how it always is." The surviving alien fleets regrouped near the remains of the enemy core. Sensors confirmed the truth. The enemy was gone. Its control network had shattered. Across the galaxy, occupied systems went silent, then free. Messages began to arrive. Worlds once thought lost were still alive. Weak, scarred, but alive. Hope spread faster than fear ever had. In the days that followed, the Galactic Council gathered again. This time, the chamber felt different. Lighter, still damaged but standing. The counselors looked at the human delegation with new eyes. No longer fear, no longer suspicion. Respect. We owe you everything, one counselor said. Name your reward. The human representatives exchanged glances. They had discussed this already. We don't want territory, Hale said. We don't want control. The council seemed confused. What do you want? Keltar asked. Hale paused before answering. We want warning, he said. If something like this ever rises again, tell us early. Don't wait until you're dying. The council agreed at once. Records were rewritten. Old classifications were removed. The red warning label beside Earth was replaced with something new. Ally. But among the civilians of the galaxy, the stories changed in a different way. They spoke of human soldiers who fought while bleeding, of ships that advanced while burning, of a species that did not flee when hope died. Children asked questions. Why are humans so brave? Elders gave careful answers. Because their world taught them to be. As human fleets prepared to return home, alien ships formed lines of honor. Not out of fear, but gratitude. Keltar stood with Hale one last time. You could have ruled us, Keltar said quietly. No one would have stopped you. Hale shook his head. We're not here to rule, he said. We're here to make sure no one else gets erased. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, vanishing into the dark. The galaxy felt larger again. Safer, but not empty. Somewhere, far beyond known space, signals flickered. Faint, broken, surviving fragments of the enemy drifting without purpose. They remembered one thing, the species that walked into their heart and did not stop. And they feared the blue world called Earth. For the rest of galactic history, one lesson was passed down without change. When the galaxy called for help, humanity answered, not as saviors, but as the ultimate weapon. Time passed, but the galaxy did not forget. Trade routes reopened, colonies rebuilt, new stations rose where ruins once drifted. Life slowly returned to places that had known only silence. Yet beneath the recovery, something had changed forever. Every military academy updated its lessons. Every council chamber kept a record. Every species remembered the same truth. Humans had not come to conquer. They had come to end the threat, no matter the cost. On Earth, life went on as it always had. Cities moved. Children went to school. Ships were repaired. Fallen soldiers were honored quietly, without pride or regret. Humanity did not see itself as a weapon. They saw themselves as survivors. General Hale stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean, months after the war. The waves crashed endlessly against the rocks. They reminded him of space battles. Relentless, unstoppable. A message arrived from the Galactic Council. A simple update. The last enemy remnants had been hunted down by combined fleets. No new signals. No hidden cores. The threat was truly gone. Hale closed the message and looked toward the horizon. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Council held a final session on the war. This time, it was not about fear or defense. It was about memory. A monument was approved, not just for the humans, but for all who stood with them. At its center was a single line carved in common language. They endured. Among civilians, stories became legends. Some were exaggerated, some were softened, but all carried the same message. When everything failed, humans did not. Alien children grew up hearing those stories. Some feared humans. Others admired them. Most respected them from a distance. Earth became a symbol, not of death, but of refusal. Refusal to surrender. refusal to break, refusal to let the dark win. Years later, a new counselor asked Admiral Keltar, now old and slow, a simple question. Do you regret calling them? Keltar thought for a long time. He remembered the silence before the signal was sent. The fear, the doubt, the shame. He remembered the human ships arriving. Scarred, heavy, unafraid. No, he said at last. I regret that we waited so long. The counselor nodded. Far from council halls and star maps, human veterans returned to quiet lives. Some carried scars. Some carried memories they would never share. They did not speak of being heroes. They spoke of doing what had to be done. And across the stars, whenever a world faced extinction, whenever shadows moved in deep space, one question was always asked first. Have we warned Earth? Because the galaxy now understood something simple. When humans were called too late, the cost was high. When they were called in time, the darkness did not survive. The stars continued to burn. The galaxy continued to grow. And in its history, written across countless worlds, one truth remained unchanged. They called for help, and humanity answered. As the ultimate weapon,